Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update. And yeah, it is another one the day after the previous one. This always tends to happen during these kind of light periods for news where I'm like, okay, fine, I'll make a video covering the minor news that we got from the last few weeks. Fine, I'll do it. And then immediately the next day, actual, more significant news ends up dropping. So there's actually much more to talk about today than there was yesterday. So we'll start off with this. A little bit of negative news, but it's not too bad. There has been a delay for the Mako one-shot comic, The Mystery of Pension Island. It's been delayed by 1 week. So it's gone from February 25th to March 4th. So specifically, this is the Tuesday release date for the book, so the mass market date for regular bookstores and also the digital release. So that is significant. It is the main release date for the book has changed by 1 week, just 1 week. Now, what isn't clear, because you can see on a bunch of websites they change it to March 4th, so Dark Horse and now Penguin all have this, which makes sense. Previews World, which uses the comic book store date, still have February 26th. So I don't actually know for like 100% certainty that the comic book store release date has absolutely changed. Sometimes it is just delayed in this stuff happening, but we have had situations in the past where the two dates have sort of separated a little bit because of different distributors and stuff like that. So I don't know if this is just slightly behind. So just keep an eye on that. That'd be my advice for this. If you want to get this book as soon as possible, just keep an eye on this in terms of like, does the comic book store date change to what should be March 5th, the Wednesday, or does it stay in February? Because there is a slight chance, at that point it might be available in comic book stores first and then main release a little bit afterwards. But usually I think recent stuff is that I'm guessing it just is delayed by a week. Now, this means it is this interesting situation where we are now, this book is 3 weeks before Ashes of the Academy. They're only separated by 3 weeks because that book is the 25th / the 26th. So that's a little bit frustrating that the two releases for the year are going to be like back to back, like super close together. And if they don't have other announcements or other releases for the year, it is going to be, I think, a little bit frustrating that we've ended up in this situation again where all your stuff happened within like a 3-week period. Just like spread it out a little bit more overall is just the kind of a frustrating situation. So yeah, 1 week delay for this book, pretty much down to some sort of logistics issue is my guess at this point, because again, I've read the book is done. They just need to print the books, get them out to everywhere to sell it, and that usually is where some of these late in the game delays happen. Next, we have a piece of merchandise from Thrilljoy. It's this line of figures called Pix, and Aang is getting one of them. Now, this is the only one of these. There's only one Avatar Pix, and it is Aang. So yeah, $50 coming soon. I'll address that in just a second. There is a chase situation with this going on as well. But what is a Pix? Just looking at it, what it is it's obviously some sort of a kind of picture frame type thing. This is why it's called what it is. It's a figure in a kind of 3D picture frame, and that's what they're going for. They're really leaning into the collector's aspect of this, in that like this is limited to 4,000 pieces and that there's a chase version of it, as you can see here. So the main version is book 3 Aang. The chase version is book 1 Aang. So I actually like that. I like that the main one is the book 3 one, and that the usually somewhat boring these days book 1 Aang design as the main merch is made as the exclusive one. I think that's a little bit better. Again, it's a full-on collector's item thing here, and I'm sure it's quality for what it is. But at least to me, as someone who's followed the merch for a long time, this is like the 4th, 5th, 6th attempt at doing like chibified Avatar figures in some sort of a form factor. You know, Funko, U2s, all the different other companies that did them over the years, where we have different takes on this style. To me, this doesn't stand out so much that it's a must-have, a must-need thing, just because, you know, it's pretty expensive for what it is as well. And I think part of that price is just the fact that it's leaning quite heavily into being a big, you know, collector's item type thing. It's cool. It's here for people. If you are someone who just collects everything, here is something for you, where I guess if you do get the Aang, it's a pretty interesting kind of thing. What does it say about odds of a chase? It's 1 in 6, so that I think that's the same as Funko Pop chases, so you can see it's following the same pattern. As far as the situation with this, it's this animation drop. So yeah, January 24th, 9 a.m. Pacific time is when this lineup is going to drop. So again, I'll have a link to this in the description below if you want to, if you're interested in this and are looking to be there on January 24th for the drop. But yeah, it is just Aang as the only one here. So that's that. And then we go into the main event news, and that is that finally we have some of the Kickstarter details for the Avatar Legends Kickstarter with Beetle and Grimm, the Voyage of the Unity Premium Edition Adventure Set. Information has been all over the place with this. We've known about it for quite a few months now, but there really hasn't been super concrete information, especially like with they were at New York Comic Con, but none of that information really filtered out. We got a blurry sort of image that gave us some information, but when it was actually happening, I just think the communication wasn't there. Early stuff was saying it's going to be fall 2025. New York Comic Con, the slide said fall 2024. Now, clearly, it's going to be launching early 2025 at some point in the next couple of weeks. We'll see specifically when it happens. But again, go to this page, sign in with your account and save it so that you're aware when it does go live. But for now, we're going to go through this. So, image is exactly the same as we've seen before. This is a Voyage of the Unity, so it's a Roku era thing in its entirety. So, long before Zuko set sail in pursuit of the Avatar, just highlighting it's the Roku era, Teek Rig Anik, again, I don't know how to pronounce that name properly, Teek for short, is the character from the core book. All this kind of background information here is from the core book. I don't think there's anything particularly new here, except when we get into kind of what we're going to do in the adventures. So yeah, Teek is the one kind of funding this thing, the Grand Tour of the Unity, to expand the Southern Water Tribe's reach, forge connections between peoples, and spread goodwill throughout the four nations. Teek, as she's called by her friends, enemies, lovers, and employees, has spent years securing the funding for the voyage, and the ship is ready to set sail on a multi-year journey that will be remembered forever. I hope that because they're really emphasizing Teek, that she maybe gets presented as the legend NPC for this, or that there's enough detail on her in like the booklet thing that we're going to get, that she effectively becomes more of a character than just like, hey, this is a person. And then yeah, they basically just covered this is just about the Roku era and like, you know, what's going on here. Yeah, scientists, artists, diplomats are on the crew of this, but they bring their own prejudices, fear, and ambitions with them. The governments are suspicious of this. This is all in the core book if you read it. The Roku era is kind of a Cold War era. All the nations are sort of plotting in secret. Roku's having to do a lot of diplomatic work to prevent these smaller issues from becoming big issues. And it's the same for something like this. Everyone is like, well, interesting technology on board this ship, but really, everyone's just on board for the sake of advancing technology. Not sure about that. And so there's a bit of spy stuff going on around it as well. So yeah, conflicts, rivalries within the crew. That's what this is about. And yeah, you are, of course, when you play these adventures, going to be playing as people who are on the crew. And that's sort of the idea of this. What it is it's a series of 5 linked adventures that take place both on the Unity and at various ports of call across the 4 nations. So that's interesting. They're not just 5 completely separate adventures. You can obviously use them that way, but they are interlinked, I guess, to cover stages along the journey of the Unity. So yeah, there's some that are going to be exclusively while I suppose we're at sale, and then some of them are just actually going to be on land, but I suppose the ship is going to be right there if you need to go onto it, which I think creates a nice little bit of variety. And because it's sort of traveling sort of across all 4 nations, it allows you to do stuff at like wherever you need to do. Like there can be one at one of the water tribes, you can do it on a fire island, Earth Kingdom, go up next to one of the air temples if you really want to. And the setup seems to be that Tagukak is asking you to join the crew as protectors and heroes. So Tagukak is, of course, Roku's waterbending master. He is a legend NPC already from the... It's the Wanshi Tong Adventure Guide, I think, that is the book that he's actually in. But like as part of the initial release of the game, he is already covered. Yeah, time of relative peace, but tensions simmer just below the surface. Threads of war to come that will change everything. So yeah, that's like what I explained just before. The 5 adventures can be played individually or as a campaign that takes the companions from unknowns taking their first journey to respected members of the crew. The Unity offers players and GMs a unique frame for the campaign, a globe-trotting set of adventures that showcases everything the 4 nations has to offer. Okay, and then we get into the details of what this is as a product. The standard edition, I like that there is going to be a standard edition of this, comes in a decorated slipcase and includes everything you need to play. 5 adventure booklets, a guide to the Unity for the GM, a booklet of condensed core rules, and an exclusive Avatar Legends GM screen. Now, straight away what I note about this is that, okay, we are getting... everything is separate. 5 booklets plus a guide to the Unity booklet, basically. Whereas if you combine these 6 things into one book, it's effectively the Unity Adventure Guide. And I'm wondering if the Kickstarter does well, is there a chance to combine all that stuff together into a hardcover book? As in basically the Voyage of the Unity Adventure Guide. Because effectively, how is this that different than the Iroh book or the Wanshi Tong Adventure Guide? Which are effectively 5 adventures with a lore section at the start about some sort of a themed thing. For the Wanshi Tong book, it was a little bit of a section on the library that was actually quite short. With the Iroh one, it's about Jasmine Island. And very clearly, a guide to the Unity is in-depth information probably on the Unity as a ship, its voyage path throughout the world, who's on board, that sort of thing. So altogether, that's a lore section and then 5 interlinked books, which is effectively an adventure guide. So I'd like to see that just for consistency in the collection. I hope that at some point there is a stretch goal to maybe combine that stuff into a hardcover book. We'll see what happens though, in terms of how much interest there really is in this. So yeah, 5 booklets, some sort of a lore kind of thing for GMs to have as much information as possible. That it's for the GMs, but it's also for people who are just interested in the lore, would be my guess as well. Condensed core rules, of course, you need to know how to play the game, and a screen. I'm guessing it'll just be similar to the one we already have, but it will just have Roku kind of related imagery on it. So maybe there'll be some new stuff. We'll have to wait and see. The premium edition. So this is the kind of main event for this. It includes all the elements of the standard edition in a handsome box. Okay, collectible box. As well as a collection of in-world elements from the adventures. So, okay, they're going to be sort of themed to what the actual adventures are about. This will include bending scrolls, in-world handouts, that's a bit vague, maps, which is kind of exciting, and other elements that the GM can use to create an immersive experience. And yeah, sign up for this, all this stuff, but I think really you just need to sign up on Kickstarter is probably the main one. We'll know about it. I'll cover this in a news video when it comes out, so we can go over the full details of it. For me, the big thing with this is going to have to be pricing. Just because it is very specific. Very, very specific. It's a Roku era specific thing that is completely based in the RPG. Like this is not covered anywhere else except the RPG. What's going to get people invested in this? I think it's good that you have a standard edition for people who don't want to pay extra for like a bunch of like stuff that they might not want. But the whole point of what Beetle and Grimm do is kind of for the collectors and stuff like this. For people kind of like myself who don't really play the game, but I like the lore that's in the books. And so the handout stuff, if it's really well done, is of interest to me. So my guess is that this is going to be around the price of an adventure guidebook. So I'm guessing like 40, 50, 60, because it is going to come in like a slipcase and have a little bit of other stuff going on in it. That's going to be your standard release. Premium edition can vary quite a lot, but based on what they say and the fact that most of the stuff that they're describing here seems to just be paper handout type stuff, like a scroll is paper, handouts are paper, the map, paper, basically. So unless there's like a super premium version of this where like we're getting multiple cloth maps and there's tons of work done to make like proper scrolls that have the kind of insert thing where you can scroll it down and stuff like that. This doesn't seem like crazy like expensive necessarily. So I'm thinking maybe 40, 50, 60 for this, and then the premium edition maybe like 100. I don't think you can go much higher than that without really scaring people away because of how maybe super specific it is. It's about the RPG game and then a specific part of the RPG game, and especially like if there maybe aren't other Legend NPCs and stuff like that in this, if you don't have a ton of new like Roku related art in this as well, they need to do some interesting stuff to sell this, I think, pretty well. I hope there's some good new art. I would really like to see that, in the sense that, for instance, Roku is referenced a lot in the Roku era stuff, but like he's not really included in a lot of things. So I'm wondering, like, is there one of the adventures that maybe more heavily includes Roku in this, and that can give an opportunity for that. Teak would, I think, be a nice character to have as potentially a Legend NPC, or at least to get some sort of a detailed thing in the guide that comes with this, the guide to the Unity. And yeah, I think the big thing here probably is visuals for what this ship is. I think they need to basically have blueprints, images of that to make it really clear that this is what you're all about. If you don't do that, it feels like it's going to be a little bit of a failure. But it looks interesting so far, and I think it feels very obvious what maybe one of the stretch goals might be, which is, yeah, very clearly collect these into an adventure guidebook, which I would like to see at some point. So yeah, no sign just yet on exactly when it's launching, but I'm pretty sure once the page goes up, and it has only gone up very recently, they're not going to wait too much longer, because it's already been somewhat delayed from when they originally were talking about it and stuff like that. They need to get this out there. So interested to follow this, but also I would say for Magpie, I really, really, really hope this is not the only thing they have going on this year. I hope this is just an extra thing, and that this is not in place of another book, because it's getting a bit crazy what's happening with the Spirit World book, that it wasn't the book last year. They're still working on it apparently, but when is it coming out? I need them to say something. And just with some of the timing stuff, I'm a little bit like, what are we doing here? So we'll see what happens, but yeah, that's been the video. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. A 1 week delay for the Mako comic. These Pix Ang here with a chase version. What are your thoughts on this as a kind of new piece of merch? And also the first significant information on the next RPG thing with the Kickstarter. Other than that, I'll just mention that I do have a live stream happening later on today, where I'll be talking about Avatar in 2025. We'll be talking about predictions and stuff like that for Avatar Studios and the projects and stuff like that. It's also my birthday today. So join me on the stream later on at 9 p.m. Ireland time, 4 p.m. Eastern. And we can have some discussions about Avatar for the year ahead. But other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.